He was going to make a name for himself in farming. That was his whole plan.
But Dylan Rounds is known instead for the tragic ending to his short life when the 19-year-old was murdered on his own farm. Now, the killer is admitting what happened.
Says to count one murder, a second-degree felony to that charge. How do you plead?
Guilty.
As part of the plea, Dylan's family is finally led to his burial site after years of searching.
How did we miss him? That's how it felt. How did we miss this? We were that close for 20 months of searching. How? When I speak that Dylan was literally under our feet in the first couple days, that is a true statement.
I sat down with Dylan's mother to hear her reaction to the plea.
It's a peaceful thought to bring him home and be able to have him back with us in a place we can visit him. I don't think there's ever closure when you lose a child, especially in this sort of context.
And we look ahead to the sentence her son's killer could face. How do you feel about that? Is that justice?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
The story of 19-year-old Dylan Rounds begins on May 28, 2022, when he was last seen. At the time of his disappearance, Dylan was working on his farm in Lucin, Utah, near the borders of Idaho and Nevada. His mother, Candice Cooley, tells me it was Dylan's dream to be a farmer.
Oh, he's just a good old farmer. That's the only way to explain him. He, from the time he was little, until we lost him, that's it. That was his passion. That's all he cared about. He was a 15-year-old teenager in 80-degree weather with a sweatshirt on, mowing our pasture with a push mower because it needed to be done. Work, he had an amazing work ethic. That was his play. Besides snow machining, he loved to work, and that's what led him to Lucin, to his farm, was where he could afford some ground and get to work.
The last person to hear from Dylan was his grandmother. He called her to discuss some farming plans for the day, but after that, he never made another call. Candice tells me there were no warning signs before Dylan vanished. What led up to Dylan's disappearance?
We have no clue. That's the point of a disappearance. You can't, if you know what's going to lead up to a disappearance, it's not going to happen. What happened afterwards was, the search, all the efforts we did, the specialized teams, the trying to get help from law enforcement, the being shrugged off. He's just a teenager. He disappeared, or he wanted to go partying. He'll be back. All that stuff that we knew wasn't true, made the case a lot more difficult. When I speak that Dylan was literally under our feet in the first couple days, that is a true statement. And law enforcement just laughed at us. They literally laughed at us. So yeah, leading up to it, we have no clue.
To start, the Box Elder Sheriff's Office began the investigation into Dylan's disappearance. When the investigation switched from a rescue to recovery mission, Box Elder says it, quote, dedicated thousands of hours to the investigation and search and engaged the assistance of over 30 agencies in and outside of Utah. When I asked Candice about this, she had a lot to say. And I know that you, your ex-husband, the community, 30 law enforcement agencies, I believe, according to the press release.
No, there was not 30 law enforcement agencies. That is such such a farce. There is not even close. And I have wanted to call that out when I seen it in Box Elder's press release. The state of Idaho helped. They processed Dylan's pickup and grain truck because Box Elder didn't do it. They sent it home. Elko helped. Weber County, the FBI, the state of Utah, as far as their lab, the state of Utah lab. And then there's 3 agencies we brought in, and that's it. There's not over 10. They are just grasping at trying to make themselves look good. That is an absolute lie.
And I know when I spoke to you in the past, you had issues with Box Elder in the investigation, and your ex-husband did as well. Are there things that you want to clear up now that the investigation has been concluded?
Oh, we still absolutely have issues with them. There'll be a lot more as we move forward to try to educate law enforcement on mishandling a case and kind of how Dylan's case went. Everybody's big thing is, are you going to sue him? Are you going to sue him? Are you going to sue him? Well, suing law enforcement, what is that going to do? They're going to pay you off and they're going to go on their merry way and they're going to do it again. They need to be held accountable, be educated, and make a change in how they handle things moving forward. There is so much that until after the sentencing, we're just going to leave be, and then we'll move forward. But they never did redeem themselves with us. They consistently, through the case, even through once a prosecutor got a hold of it and different evidence that we still found as a family and things that had happened, they still shrugged it off. They still blackballed us. They did everything they could in their power to not have to deal with us. And if it was not for the prosecuting attorney, this case would not be where it's at. He's done an amazing job.
We'll get back to the story of Dylan Rounds in just a second, but first we have to give you a law and crime legal alert. Google Incognito tracked users' browsing data without their knowledge. Mass Tort Alliance, one of our legal sponsors, is helping users file for compensation due to Google misleading the privacy of their incognito browser. If you've used Google Incognito anytime since 2016, you can start your claim in less than 10 questions at incognitoclaims.com/LCnews. Now back to the case of Dylan Rounds. Eventually, the investigation pointed in the direction of James Brenner, a man who had been squatting in a trailer on Dylan's property at the time of his disappearance. How would you describe James Brenner, in your personal opinion?
Reclusive, standoffish, not anybody you would ever be concerned about. Not anybody that you would think, oh, I don't know if my kid should be around this person. It's like I tell people all the time, they're like, well, how didn't you know about his criminal history? And why would I? I don't run background checks. How many teenagers work at McDonald's or Burger King alongside 40, 50, 60-year-old people? Do you run a background check on everybody your kid works with? Right? Like, he never gave us an uneasy feeling. Like, I'd hand him a plate of food when we would take Dylan's groceries, or when they would stay in their campers here when they were doing the pivot, he would say, "Thank you, ma'am," and walk away. That was it. Nothing. That was just the end of it. Everybody sees him now through these court hearings as this weak, feeble old man, right? Well, people forget he's been in federal prison for almost 2 years. He's went on multiple hunger strikes. He's making himself appear that way. He was a burly, brusque, strong man when all of this started. Just because he looks different now, don't let it fool you, because that's not who he was before. 20 months in a federal prison can change a person a lot.
But Candice says she still doesn't understand why Dylan was killed.
There was no reason, there was no motive, there's nothing. It was just, on James Brenner's part, a snap moment. But it should have been handled in a much different way.
You said that it was a snap moment. What do you mean by that? I know that at the time of Dylan's death, Brenner was squatting on the property.
Correct. Yeah. And he had been for about 22 months. Yeah. I mean, think about the TV show Snapped. Somebody just snaps. That's what it was. His whole criminal history starting back in 1986 that we didn't know about was all snap moments. Just no reason, no motive, just came across him on the wrong day and he was angry and you were in the wrong place at the wrong time.
James Brenner was named as a suspect in Dylan's case in July 2022, but he was not charged until spring 2023. Brenner was charged with 1 count of aggravated murder and 1 count of abuse or desecration of a human body. According to a probable cause affidavit, investigators recovered a video from Rounds' phone that led to Brenner's arrest. Court documents read in part, quote, "The video showed the defendant, James Brenner, with blood stains on his arms and shirt as he was cleaning a gun. The shirt, which the defendant is wearing in the video, was analyzed and the victim's DNA was found on the shirt." Candice says a plea deal in Brenner's case has been underway for more than a year. At what point did you and your ex-husband, the family, come to a deal and say, okay, this is what we can handle?
When it was finally murder, it's the plea deals in the beginning were he wanted manslaughter with self-defense. The hearing clearly stated on Wednesday he shot Dylan twice in the head. I don't know how you could ever say that is self-defense. But that's what he wanted in the beginning. And we said, absolutely not. We will not make this Dylan's fault, because it's not. And that's why we wouldn't go with self-defense. We had another option of attempted murder, which oddly enough in the state of Utah, attempted murder holds a sentence of 3 to 15 years, but murder's only 1 to 15. And we said, no, we're not going to go with attempted murder either, because then that leaves everybody to question, well, if the family said he only attempted it, who actually did it? So we wouldn't agree to that one either. So that's kind of everything came together. And the prosecuting attorney in Box Elder has been great. The sheriff's office is our fight, but the prosecuting attorney has done everything in his power and tried to pull every law to get him more time. Unfortunately, there's reform needed nationwide, right? I'm dealing with Utah, and I see the extreme reform that is needed there, and I'm sure they're not the only state.
As part of the plea, Brenner's charge of aggravated murder, a first-degree felony, was reduced to murder, a second-degree felony. An additional charge of desecration of human remains, a third-degree felony, was dismissed. During the plea hearing, prosecutors outlined the final moments of Dylan's life.
19-year-old Dylan Rounds was reported as a missing person on May 31st, 2022. Sheriff's deputies, along with search and rescue crews, made efforts to locate Dylan, but were unsuccessful. During the search, deputies discovered a pair of boots belonging to Dylan nearby. One boot had a blood stain that DNA analysis confirmed to be Dylan's blood. Dylan's phone records were also obtained, which showed movements on the day of his disappearance on a remote property in Lucin, where defendant was living. Phone data showed that the last signal from Dylan's phone was at the Lucin pond, and a search of the pond led to the discovery of the phone. A digital forensic download of the phone was conducted and led to the discovery of a time-lapse video taken at the time of the victim's disappearance, showing defendant with blood stains on his arms and shirt as he is cleaning a gun. That was taken on the day when Dylan went missing. Dylan's remains were eventually recovered pursuant to the plea agreement in this case in the Lucin area, and forensic analysis revealed bullet holes to Dylan's skull, which was the result of defendant shooting him in the head. And then on case ending...
Mr. Brenner, is that what happened in this case?
Yes, I guess.
It says to count one murder, a second-degree felony to that charge. How do you plead?
Guilty.
Now he's pleaded guilty. What do you make of that? How do you feel?
It needed to happen. And even the last time we talked, we were going through plea deals last year, just nobody knew it. They were just ridiculous and we wouldn't entertain them. Pleading guilty is one thing, but you got to take into consideration his sentence of 3 to 30 years, only 1 to 15 of that is for murdering Dylan. He's going to serve more time on gun charges than he is for murdering our son, and that's not right. But that's how the laws in the state of Utah are, and you can't just change a law overnight. So I still believe we would have found Dylan this summer after knowing where he was at, but we didn't know that at the time when we took the plea. We were just kind of backed into a corner where we wanted to get our son back, get this chapter of it closed, and try to move forward with our other kids.
You mentioned the possible sentence, and I know that's ahead in July for the actual sentencing. But for
Yes.
Dylan's murder, the 1 to 15 years, how do you feel about that? Is that justice?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And unfortunately, James Brenner will be up for parole in 3 years. This is not something that the judge can say minimum of 10 of your 3 to 30 and then up for parole. He will be up for parole in 3 years. I am confident with the legislatures and people that I've been working with in the state of Utah that he's never going to get out, or we never would have taken the plea because we don't want him to hurt somebody else, which is exactly what would happen. But as far as justice, absolutely not.
Also part of Brenner's plea deal, leading investigators to the location of Dylan's remains. Was that a key part that you and your family were hoping to have resolved?
There wouldn't have been a plea bargain without it. And even that's one thing in the state of Utah, one of their law, you can't make a plea bargain without a body. That has to be part of it. And even if that wasn't a law in Utah, we never would have entertained that. Why would we let him plea out without getting Dylan back? That would just make no sense.
If we're circling back to the search for Dylan's remains, wherever he would be, I know that there was a lot of time put into it. I spoke to you specifically about the time and the volunteers and all of that. So how did it feel finally coming to terms with it? This is where Dylan is.
How did we miss him? That's how it felt. How did we miss this? We were that close for 20 months of searching. How? So it was disheartening, but In the beginning, we were searching for Dylan to be hurt, Dylan to be walking around, right? Something, we weren't searching for incandescent graves, stuff like that. We didn't even know what to look for at that point. And without having help from law enforcement, you don't know what you're looking for. And frankly, Box Elder didn't know what they were looking for. They wouldn't know how to look for it. So now we've learned, we've been educated. We have all this knowledge to offer other families. We would have found Dylan this summer. Like I said, we would have, because our whole plan and where we were going to start searching and kind of regrouping. But then it still would have been a trial. We're thankful to not go through a high profile trial. And there's no guarantees. There's no outcomes on a trial. And the way evidence was handled and the evidence that the few small pieces we had, the video, the way stuff was handled in the case, in my opinion, any good defense attorney would have got most all of that thrown out and we'd have had nothing. And he'd have walked on it. So, I mean, that is my personal belief. If we went to trial, he probably would have walked because a lot of the evidence would have been thrown out. And that was due to mishandling of it.
Does it bring you and your family any sort of closure now that you have found Dylan?
I wouldn't say closure. It's a peaceful thought to bring him home and be able to have him back with us in a place we can visit him. I don't think there's ever closure when you lose a child, especially in this sort of context. But to have the worry of when's the next phone call going to be from the prosecuting attorney? What does Brenner want now? Because you got to remember, this is all about Brenner. He has all the rights. Dylan has nothing. What is Brenner entitled to? What does Brenner want? What's he going to throw at us this time? What crazy person's going to tell us this is where Dylan is? So that part of it is very peaceful to put to rest, that it's like, I don't have to answer Utah numbers anymore. Like, I have all my answers. So that in closure of that sense, yeah, that's good. Closure as far as losing Dylan, I don't think we'll ever have.
At the time of Dylan's murder, a warrant for aggravated assault, a first-degree felony, was already out for Brenner. Candice says, had he been arrested, things could have ended differently for her son. Do you believe that Dylan's murder was preventable?
Absolutely. Had Box Elder have executed the warrant that was issued in April of 2021, then it was reissued in 2022. The lead detective himself told me he had multiple encounters with Brenner. They knew where he was at. Had they arrested him, they'd have seen his violent past and he'd have stayed in jail. It was 100% preventable. Dylan being murdered is on Box Elder's back. And I will stand by that. And I have all the documentation that shows it. They should have had him arrested over a year before Dylan was murdered.
Looking forward to future events that are coming, I know that we spoke about Brenner's sentencing, and oftentimes they allow for victim impact statements. Is that something that you think you'll do at the hearing?
No, I'll write one for the judge. I don't think any of us will. Some are undecided, but I think it's going to end up none of us will. We'll write them for the judge so they're in there for the parole board. I feel like telling Brenner what he's done to us as a family and how it's affected our lives will actually give him a sense of satisfaction. And I won't give him that. I will not give him the sense of satisfaction to hear me read, and speaking for myself particularly, not the whole family, but to hear me read what he's done to me personally. No way is he getting that. I think he would enjoy it. He is an evil narcissist, and it wouldn't have no impact on him.
In the wake of Dylan's death, Candice and her family have created a nonprofit, Dylan Round's Legacy, to help other families in the same situation.
So we have partnered up with Missing in America Network, and then we have Dylan's Legacy. We do a lot with canine teams. We're working with a lot of drone software developers for some different software for areas like that. Support of the families. One of the biggest thing that people forget. So you take a case like Dylan's, myself, my husband, my ex-husband, my brothers, grandma and grandpas, everybody was able to drop ship and run and be out there whenever we needed them. I mean, they all stayed out there with us for the first full week. Unfortunately, a lot of families don't have that capability. They have to choose between, I got to go to my 8 to 5 job and support my other kids and make my house payments and all of this, or I got to go look for my child. Most of us are self-employed, so we're able to do that. So that's been another thing that we've helped with and want to continue to help with. Is it's really hard to want to go look for your child, especially when law enforcement isn't helping you, but to not be able to afford to do it is not fair. That's gotta be a horrible feeling, and so people who find themselves in those situations, we wanna help them with that financial, "Hey, here's your house payment paid, here's your power bill," school lunches for your other kids, whatever it might be, to enable them to go out and do that. And then awareness, that's where Missing in America Network comes in. We've located 2 people alive in the last 6 months, 3 months actually, just off of awareness, missing young adults. There's been remains located from the canine team off of Doan's Legacy. We just raised money and now we've got the website up and running. We got a lot of stuff going on to finally now we can focus on helping others a lot more. I mean, getting Dylan back really helped to put it into perspective and say, okay, we always said we'd find him, we'd never give up, and we did that. And so it's kind of the next chapter. Like, now let's go get others.
How do you hope that Dylan's legacy is remembered? I know you have your nonprofit that already has seen some success
Right.
and helped other families, but how do you hope he's remembered?
He's just gonna be the farmer. He's just gonna be the farm kid. That's every article's a young Idaho farmer. The Idaho farmer, that's who he is now. He is the young Idaho farmer. That's what he's turned into. And that's truly what he was. That's how it'll stay.
James Brenner is scheduled to be sentenced on July 1st. As part of the plea deal, he faces 3 to 30 years behind bars. Reporting for Law&Crime, I'm Gillespie.